Hi, welcome to another episode of the Night Sky this week. This one is for March 8th, 2021. I hope you've had a great weekend and you are ready to do another busy week of stargazing. This week we've got talking about planets, we've got special eerie lights, we've got constellations and stars, lots of things. So why don't we begin? Welcome to everybody, and of course I have the chat room open. I've got everyone looking here from where do we've got our friends from? Where are you all from? Los Angeles, Tabby from Los Angeles, Gopa from New Jersey, Tora from Sweden. Welcome to all of you. So nice of you to join us. We've got friends like Marcia from Western North Carolina. We've got Teresa from Minnesota, Emily from Kansas. Very nice. Who else do we have? We have Marcia from South Carolina. Very nice. And Andreas from the West Island here in Montreal, where I'm broadcasting from. Hey, a local fan. That's great. So nice of all of you to join us. Many are. I'd love to see. I'm always watching the chat room. And of course, I love staying in touch with all of you every week. Thank you so much for joining me. And why don't we begin right now and dig into the night sky? Let's take a look on the planetarium program. What's in store? And it's a busy week this week. So I've got it set up here for the southwestern sky, Monday, March 8th. But if you're watching this archived, perhaps on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, you'll get to see every day what is happening, what the sky basically looks like, and maybe just pinning down on your calendar of things that you'd like to go out and view. And these are things that are visible either from within city limits, or perhaps you're lucky enough to go out to a countryside where you get dark skies and you get to see a lot more stuff. So here we are. We've got our sky set up for the evening time on this week of March, or the week of March 8th. And one of the things that you'll right away notice is planet Mars, this orange bright star that's pinning down the southwestern sky. And it is basically to the right of a very bright set of stars and that really represent the winter sky constellations of the northern hemisphere. They're visible also in the southern hemisphere, these objects, but for us here in winter time, in late winter, in the northern hemisphere, these constellations of Orion, Canis Major, the big dog that's visible, like you can see here, Monoceros, the kind of a unicorn, Canis Minor, the small dog, all of these Gemini, the twins that you can see here, all are very, very highly visible this time of the year. And we'll come back to it in a second, but to the right of this group, leading the pack, of course, is Orion with its 3 bright belt stars. To the right is 2 other orange stars. One, the closest to Orion, is Aldebaran. And you can use the 3 belt stars of Orion and kind of draw an imaginary bright line to the right, and close, just off to the left of that imaginary line that you're drawing from this trio of stars that represent the belt of the mythical hunter Orion, you will see the orange star Aldebaran. Now, Aldebaran marks the eye of Taurus the bull. You can see the mythological constellation here drawn out in this planetarium program, and it represents the eye of the bull. It's 66 light years away. It's a very brilliant orange star. And then to the right of this is another bright orange star, perhaps a little bit more red in color, as you can see in this representation here. Mars is a planet, of course, and it's not a star, but it does look like a bright star to the naked eye. It has a more of a ruddy color compared to Aldebaran. There is a slight difference in the coloration of these 2 star-like objects. And of course, they're vastly different. Well, Aldebaran is a true bona fide giant star, 66 light years away, while Mars is a planet that's about 200 million kilometers away, takes approximately 11 minutes, light minutes away that it is. It takes 11 minutes for the light to reach us from Mars. And if we look very carefully with binoculars, perhaps with the naked eye, the moon is out of the sky, so we have a pretty dark sky. Look to the right of Mars. Last week, a really beautiful sight. I don't know if you've gotten to see it. I'd love to hear if you have seen it. Mars passed very close to a star cluster called the Pleiades. You'll see it here marked out in faint right there. That's marking out the individual stars here for me. But that is I'm going to see if I can get the deep sky naming there. There we go. And this is called the Pleiades, or the Seven Sisters. This collection of stars that are right next to Mars. Mars was very close to this collection, but now it's kind of moved off, as you can see here. And it will be kind of departing and moving off farther and farther to the left, approaching Aldebaran, the eye of Taurus. So all of this action with Mars and the star constellation Pleiades, or the Seven Sisters, and Aldebaran is all happening in Taurus, the bull constellation. And so this is very visible in the early evening. Once darkness falls, you can see that Mars paired up really nicely with the Pleiades, or Seven Sisters constellation. So highly recommend that. Let's check in with the chat room. We've got Todd. He says he saw it last week. It was very, very cool. Mary from Athens, Greece, welcome. Nice of you to join us. Very nice. Kim is joining from the mountaintop in southwestern Virginia, I presume. Great star watching up here. I can imagine that. Yes, you've seen it. That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that you've probably seen Mars and the Pleiades. Jan says hello from Indiana. Very, very nice. Kathy from Maine. Very nice to meet you. And from Holland. Very nice. Ellie from Holland. So nice of you to join us today. There's so many of you. Robin from Rhode Island. Sean from Calgary. Very nice. Lynn in England. It's your evening, so perhaps some sky watching maybe in the next few nights. I hope you do get some clear spots in your evening that you can enjoy some sky watching from where you are in England. And we've got Chirillo from northern Mexico. Very nice of you to join. I hope you're having warmer weather than where I am. I'm like -5, -10 degrees, freezing here where I am in Montreal, filled with snow. I'm sure you don't have snow there where you are in Mexico. I hope you get to do some beautiful sky watching. Adrian also joining us from Slovakia, and Kuban from South Africa. Wonderful country. Had the good fortune of visiting South Africa. Some amazing skies where you are as well. Beautiful skies, totally different from where I am in the northern hemisphere here in Canada, of course. So thank you so much. And Christelle from Marseille, bonjour. I'm so happy you are here joining me today, as always. So why don't we move on after we've talked about Mars and Pleiades and Aldebaran? But if we turn our attention to the morning skies, there's still something really cool with planets, particularly. So if you can set your alarm for before the sunrise, looking towards the southeast, check this out. It's absolutely beautiful, beautiful sight. This was the sight this morning on March 8th in the morning. So this is already in the past for us, but look where the moon was lined up with Mercury. We had Jupiter, we had Saturn right there, and then beautiful moon all lined up. Look how beautifully lined up. Now, if we move this to Tuesday morning, March 9th, look at that. The moon will be snuggling up to the ringed planet, what I like to call the true Lord of the Rings, Saturn. If you have a small telescope, you train that on Saturn in the early morning. Again, this is about an hour to a half hour before your local sunrise. If you're in the southern hemisphere, like my friends in South Africa or New Zealand or Australia, you will see this as well, but it will be reversed. It'll be to the left, of course, of where the sun is, and it will be kind of like a mirror effect from what I'm showing you here, okay? So just keep that in mind. But the clustering of planets, of how close they are in relation to each other and how the moon is, it's like that, but just reversed. They still have that clustering for you as well. So it's very, very much applicable to even in the southern hemisphere to see this. And it's just beautiful. Look at the lineup. And if we zoom in on Saturn through a small telescope, and this is what, if you got one, what are you waiting for? You got to get it out and take a look at this. It's absolutely beautiful. Look at this. I'm zooming in basically to give you a simulated view through a telescope. So you get an idea. You can see the rings of Saturn, right? There's the rings of Saturn. And look, there's even a moon of Saturn that is visible called Titan. All of this is visible. Of course, you want to get it when it's still pretty dark. So I would say about 45 minutes to an hour before your local sunrise is when you get to use your telescope to really look at those details of Saturn and find its moons, at least its greatest moons. It's got dozens of moons, but the brightest ones are the largest ones, of course, and they are visible through a backyard telescope. So this is basically March 9th, Tuesday morning. If we move over to Wednesday, look what's happened there on Wednesday now. The moon will be tucked underneath Mercury and Jupiter, closing in on that pair. Now, look, this is going to be an amazing sight, guys. What I want you to notice is the clustering, and this is a good photo opportunity. So if you like to take photographs with your camera or smartphone, this might be a really nice event in the early morning skies with everything happening close to the horizon. You can really set the scene with some foreground objects to really frame your photographs in something, to have that crescent moon and those brilliant star-like objects that you're seeing in the sky. In this case, you'll have Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn all right above the moon. And what I want you to notice, something very interesting, I forgot to mention this before. If I move back a day or two to Tuesday, you see that Mercury and Jupiter, here's Monday morning and Tuesday morning, right? And Wednesday morning, you see the difference here of how Mercury and Jupiter are sort of aligning better with Saturn. It'll be a true beautiful lineup by Wednesday morning. So that's what you're seeing here, is a Wednesday morning appearance of the crescent moon pointing to these planets. Fantastic. So Monday morning was great, but Tuesday is going to be better, and even better is Wednesday to see this cluster. And if I know you're asking probably, well, what happens after Wednesday? This is Thursday. Thursday will be even more of a challenge to find the crescent moon. It'll be a whisker thin crescent moon, below these planets. And by the way, if we look at the planets up close, Jupiter, again, will give you a great view of the of its disk, right? But you'll also see the moons of Jupiter on either side. That is going to be something really. Here you can see Callisto, Io, and Ganymede very clearly. These are what we call the Galilean moons, named after Galileo. In 1609 was the first person to see these moons. They're visible even with binoculars, not just telescopes. If you hold your binoculars steady enough. And then nearby, you've got Mercury. Check what Mercury looks like. I want you to see this. If you have a small telescope and you do train it on Mercury, it's not a star. It looks like a miniature version of what we call a waxing moon, or gibbous, I should say a gibbous moon. It's really neat. It means gibbous means that most of the more than half of the disk is illuminated. It's a miniature version of a gibbous moon. It's really incredible that you can see the phase of this planet through a small backyard telescope. It's one of those really cool things. You put it up in high magnification on your telescope and you can see that. To the naked eye, it looks like a star-like object. And it's one of those classical naked eye planets. Put it on your bucket list. You don't want to miss that. So on Thursday, what I had for you, basically Thursday, you have one more week from Thursday this week to see what's called the zodiacal lights. And we've talked about this last week. You can refer to I will refer to last week's show where we spent some time looking at it. But basically, it's a cone of light that's caused by dust spread out between the planets in our solar system. And sunlight refracts off of this dust and it glows. So it makes this dust glow in the sun. It's just like when you're, doing dusting, maybe in your bedroom and the sunlight is coming in and then you see all these dust particles floating right in front of you in the air in your room. We've all seen that when the sun is shining just right through a bedroom window. Well, it's the same effect happening except in space. And these are billions and billions, countless number of these dust particles floating between the planets. And we get to see it now for another week. We've had 1 week. We have another week to see what we call the zodiacal lights. And it's a cone-shaped light that's really focused on the evening sky. So if I put this over to the sunset skies, anytime this week into early next week, right where the sun sets, this is where, and it'll be just to the left of the sun. Now, I'm just marking it out with my cursor here, with my mouse. This is the area where you see a cone light, just to the left of the sun. And for anyone across the northern hemisphere, this is something from a dark location you see in evening twilight. So it means around 45 minutes to an hour approximately after your local sunset is when you want to look for zodiacal lights. So I talked about this last week because with the 2-week period of observation for zodiacal lights started last week. We have one more week starting this Thursday to see it. So check that out. Zodiacal lights, they kind of looks like a glow, like the sunset glow that you see here, but even fainter. And it's kind of cone shape or pyramid shape. So that's something very cool to think that you're looking at dust that's left over from when the planets formed 4.5 billion years ago. So something really, something cool to see. And that's a Thursday will mark the next week that you'll get to see that. So this time, with the moon still out of the way of the evening sky, this is a wonderful time if we move over to Friday, and we set it a little bit later, our sky. So as darkness falls, say mid-evening, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, when it's very civilized stargazing for all of us, what I want you to look for this time of the year is a wonderful time to look at circumpolar constellations. So what are circumpolar? When I say circumpolar, it's surrounding the pole, right? Just like how the name suggests. And in this case, we're talking about the celestial pole. Now, the celestial pole is where, if we could imagine kind of putting if you could imagine the axis of the Earth, how the Earth spins, right? Earth is a globe. And if we would draw an imaginary line out from the North Pole out into the sky, following the axis of the Earth, right? And that would point to one particular star here in the northern hemisphere, and that's the North Star, right? And that's over here. We can see it. Let me see if I can mark it off right there. It's also called Polaris. And this is, by the way, set, my sky that you're seeing is set for 45-degree latitude approximately. So the North Star for me in Montreal, or say if you were in New York or Toronto or Seattle or London or Rome, that kind of thing, it's approximately like that, about halfway up your local sky, looking towards the north. And the entire sky rotates around there, right? If I magically kind of move it forward, watch this. See, look at that. The entire sky is rotating, see, around counterclockwise. Now, of course, that's because the Earth is spinning on its axis, and that's why it's rotating. But it seems like the pivot point, the entire sky pivots around the North Star, also known as Polaris. So you can find Polaris very easily, how to find the North Star. And those of you that were Girl Guides or Boy Scouts, things like that, you might have learned this when you were kids. But it's an easy thing. We start by looking for the Big Dipper, right? Or as I think in England, in the UK, it's called the Plough. And this is an interesting 7-star configuration, very easy to see. It looks like a bowl with a handle. And it represents the back end, basically the back end and tail of a giant bear, the Great Bear. And the constellation is called Ursa Major. Ursa Major is the Big Bear. You can see that right here, the entire constellation, and you can see the Big Dipper. Now, this is in the north. You look towards the north high. It's pretty much as high as it will get in the evening time. In the early evening time right now is when it gets highest, the Big Dipper does. And you can use it as a wonderful guidepost to finding neighboring stars. We can star hop using the Big Dipper. And so if you take the two end stars of the bowl, here I mark down, that's Dubhe, right? And Merak. And you draw an imaginary line from here at the end of over here. You can see the bowl and the handle, right? If you draw a line through here and you just keep going, the next brightest star that you will hit, guess what? Is Polaris, the North Star. And it's easy to find. The North Star is about, by the way, 430 light years away. And if you and you know what? It marks off its own constellation, the Little Bear, Ursa Minor. You can see it right here. There's the Little Bear. And it's kind of a miniature version of the Big Dipper, a little twisted version of it with the handle twisted upward in a different direction. You can see the bowl right there of the Little Dipper, right? And you can see it in relation to the Big Dipper. So you can use the Big Dipper's two end stars, draw an imaginary line, it'll lead to Polaris. And by the way, the North Star, a lot of you may think, and you've heard of this, is that the North Star is not, in fact, the brightest star. A lot of people think it is in the sky. It isn't. It's not. It is a fairly bright star, but by far not as bright as many of the other wintertime stars that you'll see this time of the year. But it marks the pivot point of the entire sky. So it always stays there. It marks true north, basically, for us who want to navigate on the Earth. We can always find our compass directions by, once you find the North Star, you know where east, west, south is, right? Because you know where true north is, in which direction it is. So Polaris is a really great guidepost for us. And it's a really cool place to begin learning about the night sky, because with the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, you can find a lot of neighboring places. And one of the ones that I want you to take a look for later in the evening, and we'll go back to this, is the star Arcturus. And you use the handle of the Big Dipper. See, what we're doing is star hopping. That's what I'm teaching you here, is basic star hopping. And we use the handle of the Big Dipper. These are the handle stars. And you see it has a natural kind of arc. It's kind of a curve shape. Well, follow that natural curve of the arc of the handle of the Big Dipper, and just keep going out. And we say we arc to Arcturus using the handle of the Big Dipper. So the next brightest star that you'll meet once you curve along the handle of the Big Dipper is the star Arcturus, which is the brightest star in the constellation Bootes. Okay? There he is. You can see that. The charioteer. And Bootes is a fairly bright constellation. It looks like a giant ice cream cone or a kite in the sky with fainter naked eye stars, but by far the brightest is Arcturus. And Arcturus is this orange giant star about 36 light years away. So you're looking back in time 36 years when you're looking at Arcturus. So it's really neat. Here we go. So this weekend, end of this week, will be great with the moon out of the evening sky. Check these stars out. You get to see the Big Dipper. We look for the North Star. You can mark out the Little Dipper. And we'll talk more about that next week too. There's a lot of sky treasures in this area that we'll talk about. And of course, we've got the constellation Bootes, which is marked by its lead star, Arcturus, which is the brightest star in there. And it's easy to see, even in city limits. You'll see this if you're downtown somewhere, if you can find a good spot looking towards these. And this constellation Bootes will be with us, will be a friend for us for many months to come as it rises earlier and earlier in our evening skies and will be dominating the summertime. Believe it or not, we'll be heading into a new season soon, and these stars will be dominating the skies over the next few weeks and months. So lots of things this week. Great to see. I'd love to hear from you what you managed to actually go and seek out and explore this yourself. If you have any questions, feel free to mark them down in the comments section below. Skywatching or about telescopes and binoculars, I'm here for you. And of course, I'll be putting in sky charts and uploading the video on a pre-cut video on YouTube. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. So if you like this video and you like to see more, please show your support by giving me a thumbs up on this live stream, and also make sure that you subscribe to my channel, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. You don't want to miss any sky information that I pack into my channels every week. So with that, I hope you're doing well. I want to thank you very much for your time this week. And of course, don't forget, same time, same channel. I'll be here with next week's sky. But until then, I wish all of you guys, of course, clear skies. Bye-bye.